we're going to talk about Stadia and Stadia concurrently because Google have done
because they're
their
the same
typical
thing.
Because they're the same thing. Because they've done their typical thing of wiping out a recent acquisition and a cool piece of technology because they're just terrible. Anyway, that's today's not so critical update. Now we have an awkward pause. See, Mike, I don't know if this is going to work. We had this awkward pause bit.
Really?
There's
It's not
always a
awkward for me.
pause.
I spent some time thinking about what I'm going to say, if I should speak first, or if I'm going to let you speak, or what the. Anyway, go ahead, Peter. Tell us a little bit about Google's latest cancellation.
Yeah, Google decided that they were going to get in on the gaming market again, I think, and they decided to launch a console that was only going to be will have a limited number of games that you can only play online via streaming technology. And then a couple of years later, they pulled it again recently, which is just typical Google, isn't it? Really?
So, go ahead.
There was just some amazing one particular amazing thread on Twitter where there was a statement from like June that said from the Stadia developers saying we want to reiterate that we are not going to be doing this that Google are famous for doing. We are going to Stadia is an active development. And a reply to it was, well, when you do eventually fold in a couple of months, as always happens, can you please at least release the Bluetooth drivers? And then like 2 months later, it was like, could you please release it after they made the announcement? It was just so perfect.
That's just so good. A few contenders have entered the cloud gaming, I think is the coined term, the cloud gaming arena. Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. Google, I think, made the most noise. I don't know that Amazon ever actually even made it to market, or if they're intending to. But as of right now, the biggest problem is the restrictions on literally physics because of latency.
Well, sorry.
All I wanted to say is, yeah, sure, Peter, you might have tried it out and it might have been fine.
Yeah.
But someone who is not on a great internet connection, let's say they're on a copper line, okay, and their hops to Google are taking that much longer. So their average ping, 70 to 200. That's not going to be enjoyable. It's just not going to be enjoyable to play. You're going to constantly second guess your actions, and we're not there. We just cannot provide cloud-based gaming, especially not competitive. That's out of there's no way.
Well, John, I see. I would have been with you, but I read a review of Nvidia's offering recently. So Nvidia have got one called like Game X, or
it's called Shield. Nvidia Shield.
No, it's called GeForce Now. Is the one I think.
Oh, that's the one. Thinking. You're right.
GeForce Now, and it works with Steam and So I heard about a guy who did this, and he tried it out, and he has basically ditched his old setup because he recognized that it's not like for like pro gamers or anything, but it's good enough for like that 70% of the people who have a decent, So I think that's all they're going for at the moment, and I get it. It's not going to be perfect for every situation, but it made me want to try it. His review was really compelling. The other thing I want to point out about Stadia, by the way, it did make it to market, and there's one guy who was famous on YouTube called Color, and he is going to lose nearly 6,000 hours of Red Dead Redemption gameplay because they haven't found a way to transfer multiplayer gaming.
I just read that Bungie is like shaking at the seams trying to transfer accounts over from Google. to basically to themselves to other platforms, and it's not going well for anyone. This is a nightmare for a lot of people who couldn't afford a console or a PC.
$6,000 is a lot.
Yeah,
I think.
Sorry, Mike.
To what you said, Peter, about it's not for the pros, it's for the other 70%. Probably that's part of the problem. I imagine what drives a lot of video game sales is the pros playing the games on Twitch, and they are playing the games that are for the pros, not the games for the other 70%. But that's what's going to drive sales. Because I started thinking like it's probably a marketing problem on Google's part, right? Like if they had market share, if they were making money from this, if people were using it, they wouldn't shut it down. I don't know if that's true or not. They could be marketing it and not know how to monetize it. But like what's driving the sales for it? I think that was the piece that was missing.
Well, what's the alternative? The alternative is, how much was Stadia? $20 a month?
I don't know.
Let's say it was $20 a month. And you get access to some exclusives, you get access to some games, and then you have to buy other games. So the parent of this kid is saying, okay, it's going to cost me $250 to get you this. Or I could shell out $300 and get you not the newest Xbox, but the one gen before that can still play all these games. Or the PlayStation 4 instead of the 5. With a bunch of games from Craigslist. So I'm just saying, like, the target here is the people who cannot afford a $1,200 PC. I think that you've lost the fight already because there are so many better, more established household names to look at. And this parent isn't going to go to an unknown Stadia. They're going to go to Xbox that their kids are talking about, or the PlayStation that their kids are talking about, or even now recently, just PC gaming.
Yeah, I think that's why the GeForce Now is successful, because you can use Steam with it. And it's not that all games on your Steam library are compatible with it, but it's increasing the number of games which you can play.
I thought John was going to go on and finish the thought with, yes, all those things, and you actually own the game.
Of course. That's also, sorry, but that's a given. And now we can talk about the second part of this episode, which is Amazon. Just no announcement, nothing, deleting things from digital purchases.
This makes me lose faith in humanity.
Because of licensing issues. And we have talked about this on end. You all know my take and my opinion and the corner that I champion for. And this is just going to keep happening. This person purchased some stuff on Amazon and then it vanished. And when they reached out for help publicly on Twitter, the reply was, your purchase titles may become unavailable due to licensing restrictions. But I purchased it.
You purchased a license.
Yeah. Oh no, I rented a license. Yeah, I licensed it. I leased it from you. And this is such a clusterfuck, where digital ownership now is so muddy, people don't understand the difference between you're purchasing a license that could be revoked at any time by us versus you're purchasing a copy, and this copy is yours.
The thing that gets me is the wording in the response. Hello, your purchased titles.
Right. Like, you still own it. You just can't access it.
You just can't have it.
But John, it's actually worse even than you said, because we did the story about, was it Samsung televisions being bricked after the fact because a batch had been stolen.
Yeah.
So in that case, they were bricking them because they were stolen, but theoretically, any hardware that you own sitting in your house could be bricked at the whim of the company who owns it.
If it's connected to the internet. If it's connected to the internet, they can remotely brick it. And that's terrifying. Like, I've purchased it, and you have no right to even have that capability in my hardware. And it's the same thing that we come back to with, was it BMW, who locked out heated seats behind software?
Mm-hmm.
The components and hardware was there, but you have to pay $18 a month.
there's enough shitty sides to this that we've discussed already, but there's one other thing which pissed me off, which was one of my favorite animated shows called Final Space. The creator of that show posted as a response to someone complaining about Final Space disappearing. Yeah, this sucks. 5 years of my life has just disappeared. Like the content creators, and I think he's losing money from it as well, because
this was Final Space. That's what this was about.
Oh, is it? So I'm so sorry. Yes,
you might not be able to see it. It's small on your screen, but yeah, it's Final Space season 1 and Final Space season 2 are what the screenshot of the guy is talking about in this.
Right.
case.
So there was a response from the creator of the show who was like, "Yeah, this fucking sucks." Yeah.
And when you do this, when you make it, when this becomes widespread enough, piracy is just self-driven at this point. People will seek out what they want to see by other means. There was a really funny Twitter meme I saw where this person was sitting in a new car and they pressed the sync button. I don't know what it does, but what I do know is the result that came up on the HUD of the car, which said, "This feature is not purchased." And the title of the post was, "It's time to download a car," which is a reference to back in the day, the anti-piracy commercials where they're like, "Would you download a car?" with the Matrix music in the background. And it's like, even back then, everyone was like, "Fuck yeah, download a car." Yeah. We're headed in a direction where piracy is going to become more and more widespread, or they're going to have to do some drastic changes to licensing laws, which will not happen. And I think it'll just have to be the latter. So that then also takes us into that Reddit post that you have, Mike, talking about more piracy.
Yes, like part 3.
Well, that was from the post. That screenshot was from the post.
I see.
Right. Yeah. What I would like to know is
part 2.1.
So these things usually come in cycles, right? You have a swing in one direction and then a swing, and it just goes too far, and then consumers sort of rebel and stop buying things, and piracy comes back. I would like to know. See, we seem to be going towards, as a human society, towards this, like, you don't own anything. Everything is licensed. Corporations control everything. Digital rights media is the king. Has anything like this happened in history? Like back when the printing press was released, were people licensing copies of the Bible? And was there some sort of
it's the digital revolution that's causing it. It's a byproduct of digitalization.
Right.
Could have done it in the past.
Exactly.
No, but that's what I'm curious about. I think there might be some parallels to things that have happened in the past.
Yes. I guess some material things were cars and homes. These were probably the two biggest things that were licensed or leased to you, in the form of a rent or a lease on a car, where you don't own it. You're only allowed to use it. I'm trying to think of some other things they had. For example, those weird, super sketchy shops where you would pay $20 a month for 30 years for a fucking lawnmower.
Is this like a communism thing where, instead of the state owning everything, or a collective ownership, it's just I'm trying to draw a parallel here. I think it's like a
capitalist socialist system. I don't know how to describe it.
Something like that. It's all going to go horribly wrong when we realize that the corporations are all corrupt, and there'll be a mass uprising. We'll start.
This is why you have to still store media. You have to still store even digital media. You still have to store it offline. Like, you have to have copies. And there's a whole community of this called data hoarders on Reddit. And like, these guys, they like have scripts that update and grab new versions of Wikipedia every like week. And Wikipedia isn't that big. It can fit on like a 4 terabyte drive, 3 terabyte drive. And they just keep downloading updated versions because, like, they're so scared this has happened to them. They're so scared that one day Wikipedia will just vanish and there won't be anymore.
Digital historians.
Digital historians. And a good thing that, or a good point, I guess, bad thing, good point, is YouTube went on a rampage to remove security-related how-tos, specifically for pen testing. Something like 6,000 videos overnight vanished. And whole channels vanished. Oh, yeah, all the time. They do this all the time. They choose a category and just gone. And that drives a lot of these data hoarders to just fill up hundreds of terabytes, if not petabytes, of drives with historical data, some of which will never even be accessed again by them. A lot of it probably, but just in the off chance that it all goes horribly wrong.
Sad.
I had the whole problem with Google Music. Google has always had this weird thing where most of their services are compatible with you. If you have a Gmail account, you can use that to register for pretty much anything Google does. If you have a personal email account, you can generally use that for most things that Google does. But if you have a personal email that's hosted by Google Apps, you're excluded from certain functionality on the Google platform. And it's always been this way, and it's completely insane. So right now, the one that hit me was Google YouTube Premium. You can get YouTube Premium, but there's also a YouTube Premium Family Plan that you can use it for 3 people. But because my personal email was hosted on a Google Apps account, now Google Workspace, it can't participate in a YouTube Premium Family Plan. So I had to switch to my. It's ridiculous. So I had to switch to my Gmail address, which I have, but that cut me off from my Google Music library, which I still have access to, but not from the same account that I have to use to watch YouTube. Like it's infuriating, and it's so stupid. Like there's no reason for it. I'm some stupid whatever. It's a problem that could easily be solved. I felt this way, I think, with early smartphones too, right? Like there were back in 2004, 2005, there were so many things you knew the phone could do, but you just weren't being allowed to do it because of some decision made by the developers. I was always so frustrated by that.
Well,
Go on.
I was just going to say that's like iOS big time. For the longest time, they just did not allow you to do things like have a terminal. Not allowed. Have a file explorer. Not allowed.
One of the reasons I never got an iPhone is because it was the first thing I wanted to do when I get an iPhone. I had iPhones before. Is copy all my MP3s over and play them in my library. If you don't want to use iTunes, I just wanted to
there is no
drag and drop it into a
there's
folder.
No iTunes, you're done.
Eventually, people discovered the formatting and everything, so they made third-party applications. But it's not like you could just file explorer your way into this phone.
Why not?
Right, but you could, because you could view the pictures you've taken through file explorer.
So dumb.
Yeah. And always with the argument that it was a security issue, which is obviously not the case. It's funny because a rooted iPhone was able to do all of these things. Once you were able to jailbreak your phone, you could do so much more freedom at your fingertips, but at the expense of security.
Yeah. Well, it's whatever.
Someday we'll have everything we want.
Yeah.